You're welcome back to the show. This is still GH Today here on GHOne TV. It's now time for the breakfast review, and you know that on Wednesdays, an all-female ensemble. My guest this morning, Nana Addo, she is a member of the NPP communications team. Joan Selasie Esq is a member of the NDC communications. She's also the deputy CEO of the NEIP, and she joins us via Zoom. Joan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Lily, and good morning to Ellen. I'm doing excellent.
I'm not sure I could hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Your sound is quite low.
Wow. Let me check this.
Okay. Now I can hear you. It's much better.
Okay.
Good to have you. Ellen, good morning.
Hi.
How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
No, and congratulations to Joan.
Joan, did you hear that? She's congratulating you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you.
Right. So let's delve into the conversations this morning. The TUC is pleading with President Mahama to offer clemency to persons who've been asked to go home after they were employed after December 7 elections. And the big question on the minds of many is, are these all not Ghanaians for a government that promised that they are going to reset? Is this part of the reset agenda? Ellen, let me start with you.
Why do you want to start with me? Usually when we were in power, you were always starting with me. Since they are the ones sacking people, perhaps you should start.
No, I have a question for her, but
let them give us the reasons why
let me take your thoughts
on the sacking people. Well, for me, I just think that this is a very needless procedure and adventure. And as the TUC is saying, these are young people whose appointment may have gone through maybe after the 7th of December. Is it December? 7th
yes.
of December. The processes started longer before 7th December. Most of these people, I'm yet to see anyone who started the process right after 7th December. Most of them started a few months before. We all know how employment in this country goes, especially into the public services. You just don't get up and employ somebody. You have to get financial clearance. You have to go through the process. So if the person's appointment letter is received after the 7th of December, why do you assume that the person was employed illegally? That's one. So they should give us proof that says that the people were employed. Maybe they were not qualified for the job or something. But if it's purely on the basis that they got their letters after 7th December, definitely it is not fair. But how do you also know that these people are NPP members? They are Ghanaians. Most of the people who get into public services are not frontliners of any political party. It would be very, very strange if a CEO appointed by the erstwhile government decides to stay on. That one person needs to go because you were a political appointee.
Yeah.
But for somebody getting into a public service, a teacher, a nurse, since when did you start saying they are NPP nurses? But they understand what they are doing. This whole thing is a mess. And unfortunately, instead of starting off the government on a good note, this thing is going to follow them for quite a while. Joan's place too, they've sacked everybody. I think it's just left with her and her CEO. I'm wondering how they are also going to manage and their reasons for doing that, because I know some people were employed there 4 or 5 years ago. So, I mean, perhaps she can give us a better explanation. But whatever the TUC is saying, I think I agree with them. It should be put on hold. I mean, if you're going to have tens of thousands of Ghanaian youth going home, that's unfair. In any case, you promised a 24-hour economy. So why don't you shift all these people to the night shift? And then you have 2 more shifts to fill. Or that one too is a problem. Honestly, I think that this is not well thought out. When you look at the letter the chief of staff wrote, it looks like other people, the letter was just too ambiguous. It just left space for people to misbehave, because people are being sacked when they didn't even get their letters after 7th. Some got their letters way before 7th. Some have been in employment for years. Is it that they are perceived to be NPP members, therefore they are going home? Then they'll come and tell you, oh, when 2017 the NPP took over, the same thing happened. So we are going to repeat it. I thought we were moving forward. I thought we were resetting. Isn't that what we voted for? So if the MPP did it in 2017, which I don't agree, but assuming that we did it in 2017, you do it in 2025. So in the next 4 years or 8 years, when another government also comes, then they also do it. Are we going forward or we are coming backwards? I think I agree with the TUC on this one. They are a bit late. I think that this communique has come in quite late because a lot of the young people are confused. Some said they have received calls. They haven't even received letters of termination. And if you haven't received a letter of termination, I don't think you should move. Wait until they bring you a letter so that you have something to hold. Otherwise, it's just threats. I think people are just issuing threats to people.
Joan.
Lily, so before I go into addressing the question that was specifically addressed to me by Ellen, let me state that this practice, I normally do not like doing comparisons when issues like this come about. And that is so because if something is done and you perceive it not to be right, when you get the opportunity, you are supposed to correct it. Now, you would note that the TUC is asking the government to have clemency. It is an appeal to the government. Lily, the employment process takes a while. But when you get into an office, my situation is different. I'll come to that.
What's up?
The other agencies that have laid these, they studied the files realized as to this very attempt, to pack people into the various instances to put pressure on the government. Lily, you cannot tell me that this process started 4-5 months ago, and it is only after 7th December that when the MPP won election 2016 and they came into office, they laid off a lot of the supposed NDC people or employees who were appointed or employed after December 7th. That when they came, they laid off. They should have, known that the new government was going to do the same. And so if you want to genuinely employ people, you have to ensure, because as you are going into an election, you do not know the outcome of the elections. The NDC could have won, the MPP could have won. So what you need to do is to ensure that whatever it is, start your process and finish before that 7th December. You don't sit down and pretend to be employing people. Wait, when a new government comes in, then you pack the various institutions to put pressure on the coffers of
Joan,
the government.
I am struggling with your network. Are you able to position yourself better for me? I'm struggling with your network. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, Lily.
Yes, I can hear you. It's quite choppy. Can you? Okay. Let Ellen. I don't know if you were able to get a grasp of what, because the internet was quite choppy there.
No, if I got what she was saying, she said they had studied the files, and therefore the government employed the people to put pressure on them, on the new government. Seriously, that's the excuse for sacking Ghanaians who have been employed, that somebody wants to put pressure on you. These people, before they were, especially, let me concentrate mostly on the civil and the public service. There should be clearance. The teachers and the nurses, there was clearance. We had to take the Ministry of Finance, they had to go through. You have to be in the budget. You have to be planned for. Right. So how is this an issue? And remember that a budget was already approved before they came in. So definitely, I'm sure these people were planned for because they had the clearance. So what are they saying about pressure? About paying them? Is it that going forward, their own budget, they can't find money to pay them? If that is it, then they should let us know. But if it is the old budget that we are still using, then these people have been taken care of. I'm talking about the public and the civil servants. So, I mean, this excuse doesn't hold.
Okay.
This excuse simply does not hold.
Joan, I lost you there momentarily. Good to have you back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Yes. So the point I am making is that the employment process takes a while. It's a process. And when the MPP government came in power in 2016, they laid off some people who were employed after December 7th. So they ought to have known that if a new government should take over, that government was going to do the same thing. So whatever process they had to employ people, Lily, I think that they had every single opportunity to have properly employed these people and ended the process of the employment before 7th of December. You cannot tell me that you could start this process and then it's only after 7th December that you could have ended, especially so when that was an election year and we know the culture or that which happens after people are employed after 7th of December. Now, coming to my institution, which, Ellen, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can still hear you. Please go ahead.
Coming to the NEIP, which Ellen, spoke about, my institution is the case there is a totally different situation altogether.
Okay.
Why am I saying so? The NEIP started under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as the Yes Fund. And the Yes Fund was not an agency, and NEIP is still not an agency. It was only a program, a special vehicle program under the office of the president. There was no legal backing, and there's still no legal backing behind the NEIP. Now, this was what used to happen. The people who were the top managerial, executives, being the chief executive directors and what have you, were presidential appointees that were seconded to NEIP and also Yes. Now, you do not have the right to give permanent employment to the people you recruit if you want to recruit people to help you, because it's just a special vehicle that the government was using to champion some of its key policies. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you. Please go ahead.
Very well. So now, if you want to employ, the process you go through is to allow other agencies to employ and then or recommend them after that employment, you second them to NEIP. That is what ought to be, with the exception of the presidential staffers who were properly employed under the public service. But if you want to do direct employment, then what you ought to do is to employ them on contractual basis, temporary, employees. Now, when we got into NEIP, what was it that we noted? Upon reviewing the employment files, because of course we knew that NEIP didn't have a legal backing, and so we didn't have the powers to do permanent employment. Upon reviewing their files, we noticed that people were giving appointment letters 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 4 years. The least person that was employed at NEIP was in 2023. So it means that the least person had been there for about 2 years. Now, that employment letter was a permanent employment with even conditions of termination. But their remuneration and other conditions were not spelled out in that letter. Now, the accountant also started running through the files and noticed that they were not being paid salary, they were being paid allowances. And so for all these years, and per law, you cannot pay SNET on allowances. And allowances are supposed to be for a short period of time. People have been at NEIP receiving over 7,000, over 10,000 as salary, as allowances for 5 years, for 6 years, for 4 years, for 3 years, and their SNET were not being paid. The mode of payment was just by check. None of them, if you check from them, none of them have a payment slip. So they were just over-the-counter checks. They go and cash, and that is what was happening. So when we reviewed the files, we were alarmed and said, no, this is illegal. You are not supposed to go through this process, and there's nothing showing that they were scanned from a place like maybe the National Youth Authority, the National Employment Agency, and many other places. There was no such. We had engagements with them. And indeed, these employees indicated they had issues with how they were even employed. Now, Lily, we had the responsibility to pay them. And mind you, my agency does not have internally generated funds. We do not have it. It is operational funds that come from the presidency and some donor partners that support the activities or projects of the place. So these operational funds that come from the presidency was the money that was being used to pay these allowances. Allowances for permanent employees, because in their letters of engagement, it's permanent employment, but like I indicated, they were not being treated as permanent employees. Now, when this government lost power, the NPP government lost power, all the top managerial guys who were presidential staffers seconded there, vacated their posts, together with some of these. And they left 19 employees over there. We got in there and realized that we needed to pay them their salaries or allowances, or whichever way you may want to call it. But like I indicated, it is not something that ought to have been done. Do we continue with the illegalities over there? The answer is no. How do we go about this issue? Because we had, mind you, we had also paid them for January without paying their Senate, which is against them as employees and against the labor laws of this country. We were going to pay them for February, and any time that they stayed there, we had to pay them. And when we are paying, because of the current structure, existing structure, we're not going to pay them their Senate. Lily, who in their right sense of mind will continue with such an act when you know very well that this is not what ought to be done? We engaged them, we had meetings with them and told them that, look, of course, some of them are very good. They've been there for, you cannot say everybody should go home. However, because of this special, and we had been trying, how do we go about regularizing them? Now, there's a bill in place to make this agency, to make this program an agency. The bill has not yet gone to Parliament. It is only after that bill goes to Parliament, then this place becomes an agency. And after that, you can now have the powers to regularize them properly into the NEIP system as an agency, and then put them on the accountants and general's role of payment. So we were stuck, and we said, okay, the most appropriate thing to do is to temporarily hold the appointments. Let's have engagements about the bill, because we had already gone to see the ministry responsible for championing the passage of this bill, which is the Ministry of Communications. We had gone to see them. I think that was on Friday, that particular Friday that they were sent home. We had a meeting to see how fast this bill would go to Parliament. And Lily, it looks like the nearest would be around June for the bill to be passed. Do we keep them there and continue to pay them allowances? Allowances for people whose letters of engagement says they are permanent employees. Continue to pay them in that way to perpetuate the illegalities that had started. The only option we had was ask them to go home while we looked for other opportunities or other avenues or other means of solving the issue. Because mind you, like I indicated earlier, when they are there, you cannot pay them. And mind you, it was operational funds that were coming through from the then presidency. When they were leaving, there were no operational funds. And the new government had not made provision. The new government, so the challenge with us is that now the presidency has not even kept us under the presidency. NEIP has now been added to by the creation of the new ministry for youth, the youth ministry, NEIP has been placed under the youth ministry. So it means the operational funds are even not going to come from the presidency again. How do we keep these people if we continue to keep them? So all that we said was, we had a very good relationship with them. We had a meeting and said, go home temporarily, as captured in the internal memo. It was not a letter. It was not a press release. So you hear people say, oh, you should give better explanation and all that in the memo. It was an internal memo. If you looked at the heading, it was not a letter. It was not a press release. And so it was a follow-up of the discussions we've had with them about the state of their employment and the fact that both they themselves ought to be protected and the institution itself ought to be protected. Go home as we continue to dialogue to see how best we can deal with this issue. Now, are we going to open new call for applications at the various agencies so they get employed there and then they are seconded to us? Before you do that, it is not that budget is also going to be read. So you need to wait for all these things to be done. Lily, this is all the issue at NEIP. 19 persons. Now, if Ellen asks, as they've gone home, it's left with just the CEO and how are we going to work and all that. Mind you, our place is a program, right? Even though the earlier administration had their own projects and programs going on, we have a new government in place because originally it's an agency or a program under the presidency. So it is the presidency's initiatives that this institution, champions. Okay. Now a new government has come, new manifesto policies. It means that we have to review every work that has been done and see whether it aligns with the new administration's policies. If they do, which ones are we maintaining? If they don't align, which ones are we, discarding? So as we speak now, all that we do now at NEIP, unlike the other places where there's a continuous work, we are doing reviews. I am out of Accra because of NEIP. Many other things that we have to do to ensure that the programs and projects, we have to do visitations to the various hubs and various projects ongoing in the country, assess them, do monitoring and evaluation of these projects to see if they align with the vision of the new government and if we want to continue with it. So as it stands, we have national service personnel who are still working at NEIP. For the other staff, 19 of them in number. I want to be, very specific because, like I indicated, when the party lost, majority of them left because some of them knew the situation there. Okay. So they left with their directors and what who left. This is the situation at NEIP. So it isn't like we ask people to go home just like that. So
Joan, let me understand this. Are you assuring these people that after the dust is settled, you will re-employ them? Is that an assurance?
Okay, so Lily, like I indicated earlier, there's a new government. This is a special program under the presidency. It was created for initiatives. And so the NDC now has a manifesto. We have a new direction. Okay. The projects, after the review, the projects that we are going to continue to, implement, those staff, that's what we indicated, those whose services may be needed will definitely be back. But what I can assure Ghanaians is that definitely some of those staff are going to come back. Okay. Because there are some of their services cut across. You don't need they are not needed on a specific project or a specific policy. Their services are general and will be needed. Those ones will definitely come back. But we'll take them through a proper, is either after the act is passed, the bill is passed into an act, and then we have the opportunity to employ them properly and give them permanent employment, or act is not going to be passed immediately, maybe after the reading of the budget or whatever it is, we can have them seconded to come and work appropriately. Then they can be permanent. Ellen understands is that what her people did over there is against the law. You don't employ somebody temporarily for more than 6 years. They are there as temporary. Who does that? At best, they could have had 6 months, 1 year. No idea about. After that, maybe you do it again. Then these issues wouldn't have come up. So it isn't that we got up and we just sacked people to go home. That isn't the story at NEIP. This is the accurate story. And that is why head of communication has come when the upon break.
Joan, your network has gone back to P. Can you hear me? Hello, Joan.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I have an ask. You say some of them will be brought back because their services are essential. We'll try and reconnect with Joan. But Ellen, you had Joan there. The explanation.
How long have they been there?
She said some of them have been there for 6
No,
weeks.
she and her CEO. How long have they been there? Are they even a month?
Barely a month.
Barely a month. So you come, there's a bill. Because they didn't prepare that bill.
Absolutely.
Obviously. So it should tell you that the old administration definitely knew there were issues. And of course, it wasn't created by the old administration. As she said, YEA was created years ago. So it is going through a metamorphosis. So you don't come and tell us that what the other people did there was wrong. It's a process they are going through. You've been there for barely a month. You are not the one who even put that bill together. Of course, you can go through the bill and add a few things to it and take a few things out. But that bill was already ongoing. And it's been ongoing, from what I hear, for over 3 years. They've been going through the processes. Even now that they are done, just presenting it to Parliament, it is going to take you over 6 months to get it to Parliament. So that should tell you that where you are, it is not child's play. And you should give honor to those who were there before you. And don't come and tell us that they didn't do their work well, because you just got there. And if it is easy, by now you should have been able to send it to Parliament. These are the things that we do, that we try to criminalize what people we are taking over from have done. But you're going to benefit from their work, and you're also going to continue and do yours. So if those people were employed, and in your estimation, they were not employed legally, why did this news even come out? You couldn't have had an in-house conversation with them. Why must we know? How did they? Who posted it? Who even made it public? Because I've heard her CEO talking about it.
That was what I was going to ask her before the internet froze. But the CEO claims that it was an internal memo to them and it was leaked.
It leaked by who?
One of the staff.
The ones they have sacked?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have nothing more to say. Just to tell them that they just got there. They should be careful. In this country, public service, politicians who get there always have traps set up for them. So I advise her, both of them are practically my very good friends. I come from the same region with her boss. Oh, and Eric. And she is also a very good friend. They should be very, very careful, because the traps that will be set for them, it is not by the opponents, the MPP. As she said, all the MPP guys or people who were employed or under the presidency, presidential staffers, every one of them, their contract ended when Nana Addo's contract ended. So they are already out. So the people they are dealing with now are the public servants and the civil servants. Right. And if they were able to make the work so difficult for your predecessors, don't expect them to make it easy for you. So they should slow down. Stop accusing people of leaking things. You need to sit down and you just got in there, get your legs properly fixed in there, know the loopholes, know how you're going to manage yourself, and stop accusing the public servants and the civil servants. They'll create problems for you. As for that one, I can assure them. So if I were them, they'll withdraw this letter, call the people again, have a private conversation with them. Those who were seconded, if they'll send them back to their original organization, send them back and tell them that we are getting things sorted. When it is sorted, if we need you, we'll bring you.
But the letter claims it's a suspension.
That is far better than what is going on. This media tussle of you sacked, you haven't sacked, you came to meet people, other people didn't do things well. You just got there. I have learned a few lessons in public service from a few people. And I know, and I actually do feel sorry a bit for all these our ministers going in. They are going to meet the same people who worked with the previous government. We haven't changed chief directors.
No.
We haven't changed directors. All the ministries, agencies, all those who are there until they go on pension, they are there.
Sure.
So if you're a politician and you step in and you don't calm down and you go in with all the bravado and the kitty, you see what they will do to you. I can only advise them. Eric J should just calm down on this matter with Joan. Joan. Me, I call her Joan. Calm down on this matter and just take it off the media. I don't think they need to have this discussion in the media.
Should they have had a conversation with their predecessors?
I think they should. I mean, I don't see why they can't, because they put the bill together. Kofi Ofosun Kansa is not going anywhere. He's there.
And I have seen him respond to
yes, so they should get to him. They need something. I'm sure he's prepared to help out. But whatever it is, they should take it off the media. I don't think it's good for the NEIP, it's good for them. And knowing our system, as some of us do, they are setting themselves up for possible failure. I wish them well, both of them. They are young people, and when they get opportunities like that, you want them to do well, so that they also open other, because if Kofi Ofosun Kansa hadn't done well, I remember that place, when we came into power, it was started by the late John Kuma.
Yes. Yes.
John Kuma did very well with the place, and that's how come another young person, Kofi Ofosun Kansa, got the opportunity. And I'm sure he's also done well, and that's why the two of them have also gotten an opportunity. They should continue on that. Yes, there are issues. Sort it out and keep it out of the media. Some of these things, I think it should be off the media. That's my personal take on it.
Joan, I understand you're back. Can you hear me?
I would want to respond to a couple of things. I don't know when I was speaking if there were breakages in what I was saying.
Yes.
Then, if that is so, I'll pardon Ellen. Otherwise, I would state that she's been very disingenuous this morning on this matter. When I started, I indicated that when we got in there, and mind you, the people who are there at NEIP now are not public servants, they are not civil servants. Because NEIP does not have the powers to engage people on those terms. It's only when those people are seconded there that you can classify them as such. Now, nobody is saying that nobody is saying that the old administration has not. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I lost you there. Can you reposition yourself for me? You're making a salient point there. I want to get that point. But your network is not favorable. I understand you're out of Accra. I think this one, by now, the communications minister should be watching. And it should be top on his agenda. You know. Anyway, Ellen, she mentioned that these are not public servants yet.
I'm being disingenuous, I am not. I'm giving her and her boss sisterly advice. They should keep this off the media, in my estimation. I'm not the person they should come and explain to. I don't work there. None of my people work there. So, but this thing consistently being discussed in the media doesn't give them a good image. That's all I'm saying. Whatever issues that they have, whether they are public servants, whether they were not public servants, they will need some of these people again because they have institutional memory. You will need them.
That's very true.
So let's just keep it off the media and try and sort out the situation. But I was just also bringing to the attention that if it were easy to do, I'm sure the other people would have done it. It is a process. Even the bill, it's taking more than 3 years to get it going. So yes, they might have, they know what's going on there. That's what they came to meet. But whatever it is, in my estimation, they should just keep it off the media and try and sort it out. Because now coming to explain, after this conversation, we're going to get people who are going to pick it up in different ways, twist it in different ways, and it's definitely not going to look good for the organization and themselves. That's all I'm saying.
Joan, you're back. Good to have you back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, very clear.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
The point I am making is that if Ellen clearly heard me, I am saying that once you started the process of making the place an agency, The law also permits you to employ them in such a way that they will not be at variance or in conflict with the law. So the reason why we are saying that the old administration didn't do well with this employment is that once you are not an agency, give them contractual employment, subject to renewal. You don't give them permanent employment when you do not have the right to do so. And let me also correct Ellen. This place did not start under John Kuma. This place started under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama when Helga Bwedi was the first CEO. And the NPP government came into power.
Oh, it was a
and
legislature.
now came and changed it into NEIP before John Kuma came in. So if the process is ongoing and you are not yet an agency, thankfully, there's an opportunity that the law makes a way for you to still employ people, even though the bill is still in the process. Why didn't they utilize that process of making them contractual employees of 1 year, subject to renewal? After the expiration, you renew. And in the interest of the same people, let me ask Ellen, would she be happy that she's given an employment for over 5 years and there's no retirement package for you, no SNIT contribution? Which citizen deserves that kind of treatment in this country or anywhere in the world? Lily, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
If the old administration actually meant well for the welfare of these people, because as it stands now,
right,
it means that those who have worked 5-6 years, if they hadn't worked anywhere before, all these years they have worked, there's no SNIT contribution, they have no retirement package for them.
Why?
If they mean well for them, would they have taken them through this process? And the issue of we engaging the media and the memo being in the media, like I indicated, this was not a letter that was written to the public. And Lily, we've done our investigations. We know who brought the issue into the public domain. This was an internal memo, not a letter to the media. An internal memo sent to the HR. And you know internal memos, you communicate it to the members. Is that not so? So they pasted it and somebody took a picture of it. Among those going home, thinking that we're terminating their employment unfairly and wanted to make, they were the same people who brought this into the media. Because mind you, we work with donor partners, development partners, and NEIP ought not to be in the news. We couldn't have brought that letter into the news. They thought that they wanted to court public attention, not even understanding their situation there, that we are protecting them and protecting the institution as well. So for Ellen to say we should take this matter out of the media, we should engage them, ask the people if she knows any of them. Even on Tuesday, Wednesday, we had meetings with them. This is an internal, and they know. We've been laughing at it. You people are just hanging in there. You are not in public service. You are not in civil service. You are not in practice. We laugh about it. And we've been telling, we want to find ways of going about it. So if you sit at the studio and say that when we came, we did this, we should have found our feet there properly before. And it is part of the things we are doing. When we got in, we realized that things were not going on as it ought to be. And the first step was to deal with it and not to compound the issues, because we've been sent there to work. We've been sent there to correct wrongs there. We are not there to compound the issues. I cannot go there because I wouldn't want to be treated that way. To work for somebody for years and then my SNIT is not being paid. I don't know where I stand. Payee is being paid as a temporary employee, but my letter of engagement says I am a permanent employee. Who does that? If you mean well for the workers, you wouldn't put them through that process. All we want to do is to ensure that wherever the mess started from and got to, whether the mess started from yes, whether the mess started from John Kuma, whether the mess started from Kofi Owusu Nkansa, Eric J. and Joan Selasie's administration cannot continue with what is being done there. We ought to correct it. Before you can correct it, you have to step back. In account, they said what? You need to step back and and when I was speaking, that's why I was asking if my network there were breaks, because I gave all the possibilities of the things we are thinking about. If the bill is not going to be passed immediately, what are the other options? We could employ them anywhere. They could have employed them through YEA. They could have employed them through any of the public institutions and have them seconded there. These issues wouldn't have come. Is it that the old administration didn't know this? this basic procedure of administration. They didn't know that if you're having such a challenge, they can be employed in other institutions, they're seconded there, then they can be proper employees of the public service. So, Lily, this is what I have to say.
Right.
We are not happy. I indicated, but for this is the first station, media house I'm speaking to on this issue. But for GHOne TV, I wouldn't even, and this is going to be my last day talking about this issue, because I wouldn't want to be in the news, and I wouldn't want NEIP to be in the news. Those who think that they wanted to court public affection, so they want to put the letter in the public domain, they've put it there. And you see, even behind the scenes, Helen and the general public do not even know the conversations going on between ourselves and the immediate past CEO, Mr. Kofi Nkansa. He himself knows. On his social media pages, he indicated they were temporary staffers, temporary employees. But if we wanted to challenge some of these things he said, really, we could have brought the employment letter out for the public to see whether the wording or the state or the nature of that employment contract, the contract of employment, their letters of engagement, are letters that are for temporary employees. They need to understand and just accept that there was something they didn't do right. And those things need to be corrected.
Okay.
And if a new administration has come to correct it, how do we go about it? Let's put our heads together and correct it, rather than the accusations and counter accusations against us who rather want to do the right thing. And indeed, we are here to reset the country. So if I go into an institution and I realize that illegalities are being perpetuated, things administratively, things are not going on right. If you want to reset, you cannot continue with what is going on. You need to take a step back and reset. And this is what we are here to do. And it will shock you that you go to many institutions and you see these things happening. How do we continue to build a nation in this way? My brother, myself, you, Lily, yourself, Ellen herself will work for 6 good years, 7 good years, 8 good years, 5 good years without your SNIT being paid. Who deserves that? Are you a slave? Even slaves deserve better than this kind of treatment.
All right.
And there are legal implications to all these things, which I and my boss could not sit to watch these things continue. The best thing we have done for the institution, the best thing we have done for the employees is that let's take a step back, let's take a breather and find the right things to be done. Those whose services are needed would definitely be brought back to NEIP.
Okay, thank you very much. Joan, I'll come back to you later. We'll have to move to our next topic.
No, we're not moving. I don't know why she's attacking me as if I have said or done anything. I didn't work at NEIP. I am not their PRO. I haven't worked there. It is what came out that we are all discussing. So if you tell me that I don't know what is going on backstage, of course, I wouldn't know what is going on backstage because I am not involved in this matter. I am just giving you sisterly advice that you just got in there. Of course, there's somebody who was there before and you said you are engaging him. Excellent. But you don't come attacking me as if I was the one working there. I'm not the one working there. And it is because you campaigned that you are coming to do resetting. That is why we are asking you a few questions. And if you say that things didn't go on well, therefore you have to send people away, no problem. But why must we have this discussion here? Because I'm sure a lot of other organizations are also going through a lot of things, and we don't even hear about it. I, Elena Madeku, did not work with NEIP. I have no idea what was going on there, and I wouldn't have said anything about this if your matter didn't come up. So, instead of attacking me, you take the advice, if you so wish, and then you go back and try and get this. She said she's not going to talk about it again. I hope she doesn't talk about it again. And her boss too. And then sort it out. As she said, they have donor agencies that they are working with. They still have programs that are running. This is definitely not a good look for NEIP and for the two of them. I didn't work there. Okay. I don't know what goes on there. It is what comes out that we'll all discuss. Okay.
We'll move to our next topic. Yesterday, President Mahama saw in the new Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Joan Selasie, and he outlined his 6 priority areas in fiscal management of the economy. Topmost is management of food inflation and then stabilization of the cedi against the dollar. At that particular swearing-in, President Mahama said his predecessor, former President Nana Addo did not handle the banking sector cleanup properly. Ellen, you landed, so continue for me.
We voted for him. He should do the job. He should stop complaining. That's all I have to say to him. You said you can do it. You went around this country telling everybody how terrible His Excellency Nana Addo is. Ghanaians said, okay, you are 2 months into the job and you are still complaining. And so we should do what? He has appointed the Bank of Ghana governor. They should get to work. Nobody is interested in what His Excellency Nana Addo did. He's done. If you think he did anything wrong and you want to send him to court, I mean, the processes are there. He knows what to do. But you don't come and tell us during the swearing in that Nana Addo didn't do well. So that is why you are there. So go do well. Let's see how the dollar would fare. The cedi would fare against the dollar in the next few months. Let's see how food inflation would fare. Because in the last 2 months, food inflation has shot up. We are not interested in the complaints. We had enough of the complaints. Do the work. You said you can do it. You said you have experience. You said you've been president before. Therefore, we should let you do it. So do the work. We are not interested in what Nana Addo did or didn't do. If you think he's done something that is criminally wrong, send him to court. Apart from that, I don't think Ghanaians are really interested in what Nana Addo did or didn't do. So you and your Bank of Ghana governor, get to work. In the next 2-3 months, when the next inflation, the next statistics on inflation, it should be down. Since you took over, we've had petrol hikes. What are we doing about it? The dollar is still going. What has that got to do with His Excellency Nana Addo? Nana Addo is out. So whether he did well, he didn't do well, he finished his term. You are in your second term, Mr. Mahama. Do the work. President Mahama, do the work and stop the complaints. We are not interested.
Joan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Lily, I would have to go, but let me be brief, and then I didn't ask permission for this long. Lily, before I go into the banking sector, let me clarify. I never attacked Ellen. And when I was responding to the issues, I kept asking, were there breakages in because I laid a foundation to the issues. Indeed, she was not in there. That is why I laid foundations. But I realized that despite the foundations I laid, she was still on, a certain path which sounded or seemed as though I didn't speak to those issues. That is why I wanted to correct her, and not because I was attacking her. Now, on the banking sector cleanup issues, John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, is not complaining. The occasion was for swearing in of the governor of the Bank of Ghana, under whose supervision, and when I say who, not personal, but the institution supervision, that these banks were collapsed. And so it was the most appropriate forum for His Excellency to talk about some of the things that have happened at that sector that ought to be corrected. As simple as that. And His Excellency is right to say that the approach was not the most appropriate, because if you're running an institution and there are challenges with the institution, there are ways of going about it. You look at the human issues, you look at even the economic implications on the state. So the banks needed how much? Just 9 billion Ghana cedis to, correct the issues that were ongoing. But we spent 29 billion cedis to do the cleanup. If you do cost-benefit analysis, Lily, does it sound right? Despite the loss of jobs, people have gone through all manner of challenges because of this cleanup, out of no mistake of theirs. Because at the end of the day, this cleanup exercise that we are talking about, that needed 9 billion, but 29 billion Ghana cedi was used to do the cleanup. You have people who sat there and watch these things go that way. Couldn't this 9 billion be used to clean up the exercise and bring the people who perpetuated these, sins against the banks to book? If we indeed wanted to think about the economy to do cost benefits, analysis, if we wanted to think about human, the implications on the affected bankers and what have you, the best approach would have been to spend that money, because the state has rather cost, as the bank has rather cost us by spending this amount of money to correct a 9 billion debt, situation. So His Excellency is right to say that approach was wrong. We didn't think about the people involved. We didn't even think about the money or the burden, the financial burden on the state. So if you implement it in this way, and His Excellency cautions or talks about it at the swearing in of the new governor, I don't see why anybody who says His Excellency is complaining. Indeed, he's working, and wouldn't want the new governor to repeat such mistakes. So he ought to be cautioned using the examples of that which has happened. And as for the reset, the NDC government is on course. And that is why all these wrongs that have happened in the past administration, the NDC government has taken it upon itself to ensure we correct these things and reset this country properly, so that we do not retrogress back to where we used to be as a nation.
Right, Joan, thank you very much. I understand you have to go. We do appreciate you for joining us. That's Joan Selasie Esq. She's the acting deputy CEO for the NEIP and a member of the NDC communications team. Ellen, back to you.
Thank you, Lily.
You're welcome.
What I find interesting about all this is, so are you going to be complaining about His Excellency Nana Addo for the next 4 years? You did that in opposition. You used that in the campaign. This banking cleaning sector thing, I don't want to go back to explain why we had to go through, but it started in your administration. The person you have appointed as your governor was standing trial for the same matter. You came in, you have taken him off. What you are no more interested in. Of course, why would he be interested in prosecuting him? Then you come and you are swearing him in. And you are telling us that what you started in your administration 1, you are blaming His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for it. As I said, Nana Addo is done with his time, 8 years. Ghanaians are not interested in what Nana Addo has done. We've already gone through it. We've already passed a judgment on it. And that's how come you are now president. Do the job and stop complaining. So if some people were not treated fairly, treat them fairly. You have a data. You know those who were not treated fairly or not treated fairly. Get to work. Stop mentioning Nana Addo's name. He's done. You are the new kid on the block. You are the new president. You said you had ideas. You said you know the way. You said you could do it. Mr. President, do it. Stop complaining. Because obviously you've been complaining about everything since you started. It's getting a bit tedious. When you hear him speak nowadays, you go like, are we still in the campaign mode? We finished campaigning. We are now in governance mode. So please switch back into the governance mode. You've done it before. Switch back and let's get to work. Complaining about His Excellency Nana Addo is still keeping the man in the news, and the man is done. It is now your turn. Why would you want to cede your spotlight to a former president? Right. Move on. Do your job.
Let's also touch on the issues of Galamsey.
Another one.
Yeah, the government has declared another war on Galamsey. President Mahama says they should stop the burning of excavators.
I'm sad to say that it will not get anywhere.
Why?
Because President Mahama in opposition, did not make the work easy for the government that was in power.
So?
If he had made the work easier, by now, I'm sure would have made a lot of improvements. And when he took over, he would just have continued with it. We were in this country. When His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo put his presidency online, in the 2020 elections, we got President John Dramani Mahama going into the mining towns and telling the people that His Excellency Nana Addo is a wicked man. He's a mean person. He doesn't think about Ghanaians. That is why he has allowed the police and the Attorney General to prosecute the Galamseyers. And that's the Galamseyers in this context are illegal miners. people who were mining illegally in our water bodies, they were mining illegally in our forests, they were sent to court, they were jailed. You went there and told them that when you came back into power, you released them. Because they are not the kingpins. There are certain kingpins sitting somewhere who were the ones, you know, pushing them on. And so they shouldn't be arrested. You had your assigns and your party members going in there telling the illegal miners that when we come into power, we are going to make sure that you come out and you work. So immediately you took over power, I heard they all moved en masse into the forest. We are here have the minister telling us that there are about 7 forest zones that the government, the Forestry Commission has no control over. They can't go in there. And it started when you took over because you promised them that when we come, we'll allow you to do the work. So this fight that he's declaring, I can tell Ghanaians that it will not go anywhere. If he had supported His Excellency Nana Addo as a former president and told Ghanaians and those young people that what you're doing is evil, and instead of supporting, he politicized it. So how is he expecting to get support to fight it now? Now it's turned into everybody move in, everybody do what you want. And for the minister to come and tell us that his Forestry Commission, because the Forestry Commission is under him, does not have access to 5 forests. I mean, the minister should resign immediately. He and the Forest Commission, whoever is there.
Forestry Commission boss.
How do you tell us that you do not have access to our forest? That was bequeathed to you. Is that how it was when you took over? Had the people moved in the previous administration, they had taken over the 7 forests? Is that how it was? We have a journalist from your sister Erastus. You go on his timeline and the gentleman is complaining, he's giving us updates. In fact, he was practically beaten last week.
Sure.
So, Your Excellency, this war that you have declared, and they shouldn't burn the excavators, so what should they do to it? I am not one for burning too. If there's a way we can get them out of the forest, but then the excavators are huge. Who is going to pay for the low beds that will go and pick it up? And you know what these illegal miners do? At least I have a little knowledge of that sector.
Okay.
You know what they do? When they hear that the police is coming or the security is coming, they take off very critical components of the excavator. So you can't move it. You can't do anything. They run away with it. So when you come and you don't burn it and you leave it there, in the night they'll come, fix those parts, and they are on it again.
But how do these excavators find their way? I mean, they are very huge equipment. How do they find their way into a forest?
Go on the roads. You meet them every day. Travel from here to Kumasi, you meet them. From here to Cape Coast, you meet them. They are there. But how do you know that this one is meant for Galamsey and this one is meant for normal construction and normal work? Because we're also doing a lot of construction, road construction. We are doing a lot of construction in this country. So how to even go about and identify which ones would even end up in the forest is another thing. And these guys are way ahead of the security agencies. As I said, they will take out critical components of the machines and run away. So if you're not burning it, and before you organize for a low bed to come from wherever and come and pick it up, you are spending 2-3 weeks and they're already there. And you know what they are doing now? They just go to a space, they work their day and night, 3 days, 4 days a week, and then they move. And then they leave devastation behind. So I am so sad to say that His Excellency's call will not work because he should have supported the other man, the former president, for us to move, unless we decouple this from politics. And you know the sad thing, it is, yes, I agree that there are some politicians involved. I've heard somewhere in the Western North region, people fighting their MP, that the MP is involved. Yes, there are some politicians involved. I'll never say some of us are not involved on both sides. But the real movers and shakers are not politicians. They are pure businessmen who are doing their work and they are looking for money. So if the politicians continue to bicker, and you did this, and you didn't do this, and you did this, and you didn't do this, this is what will happen. The people will use the time we are using to bicker about this and move in there and cause devastation. I don't get them. Why must you go on a river? I said this when my party was in power, and I'll say it again. I think our military, the last time the military went there, they just went to take them off. But going forward, we should do what the Nigerians do. You go onto a river body, they will fly over in a helicopter and shoot to kill.
Should we encourage that?
Because what you're doing, you're killing all of us. Look at what we've done to our rivers. And the rivers are coming downstream. Central region is, the Ghana water is always complaining.
Last week, we had a conversation with them. They're spending millions.
And so you think the people who are doing this on the water bodies especially, they mean well for you and I, and that we shouldn't shoot to kill them. These are criminals. They want to kill all of us. Yes, there are huge mining concessions that are not near water. They are nowhere. I mean, we've been mining for centuries.
Yeah.
Anybody who gets on our water body, in my estimation, I said it's in my estimation, I think we should shoot it because you don't mean well for us. Almost every river in this country now, I think it's only the Volta that is left. That is because they haven't found any. I'm sure the day they find some, they'll be there. And even the Volta, I heard somewhere up north, parts of the Volta to people are mining in it. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We have been saying, don't mine in water, oh, don't mine in water. But still, we get Ghanaians who will bring, and what even kills me is that they'll bring people, expatriates from outside.
Yeah.
And those expatriates also have the nerve to enter our forest. How did they get in there?
Shouldn't
So
the owners of these lands be blamed? The chiefs, for instance.
They are
we have seen their exactly.
He has distilled so many of his chiefs. They are still in it.
The recent one is the Ohim chief.
Just yesterday or 2 days ago. So for me, I mean, when persuasion fails, and we have done this for years, the previous government did it, the Tamil's government did it, John Mahama one did it, now he's still saying it. I think we should take a decision. You go on the water body, we see you, we kill you. That's why I think we should do.
Should it just be the water body? I mean, they are
really, that is the most important now. That is what is killing us. When we finish solving the water bodies, we can then look at the others. Now, those are even entering the forest reserves. The forest reserves serve as a source for most of our rivers. If people don't know, I'm telling them. Most of these forest reserves were put down as reserves, and they've been reserves for more than 200 years because the River Tano originates from there. The River Brim originates. Almost all our rivers in this country, apart from the Volta, they all originate from these forests. So now we are killing it downstream, and we want to go to the source too and kill it. I mean, why do you do this to ourselves as a people? And the people who are doing this, they pick their money, they pick their gold, and they are gone. And they will leave the devastation behind. So I think we've pampered people enough in this country. Yes, they are what we call it, human rights. But they are infringing on our rights to clean water. And you think we should leave them? I know people will not be happy with me, but I think we should shoot to kill. Anybody on the water body, shoot to kill. We do that once, twice, 3 times. Nobody will go there again because they know that the military will kill us.
You say that, admittedly, there are politicians involved. Shouldn't we name and shame and then cause prosecution?
Of course, why not? Some people have mentioned their MP. I've forgotten his name. If you can name and shame, why not? In our time, there was a whole list of people who were mentioned. Some are still in court. This morning, I think you were talking about Charles BC. I don't know whether it's about the same matter. He had an issue with the OSP.
OSP, yes.
And it's all about the mining matter. So people are in court. And they are still fighting. So this MP, that his own chiefs are saying that he's the one encouraging them. Why is his party? Where is his government? He's an NDC MP. Why hasn't he been arrested yet?
Is it that we lack political will?
At this point in time, I don't know. Let's wait and see. Let's give it a few months. I just think that President Mahama has just come in. I don't think what he's saying would work, but let's give him some time. At least we have a history of Nana Addo's fight. We have a history of President John Mahama and President Mills and the fight. And if you remember, there were videos where President Mills was telling people, was pleading with them to get off the river. And that was about how many years ago? And we have continued up to now. Let's give John Mahama administration too the chance and the opportunity. Maybe by June, we'll see. Perhaps he has a magic wand somewhere that can let what he's saying work. When I look at our history, I don't think it will work.
So we'll lose the fight against Galamsey?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway, so thank you very much, Ellen. That's it for the breakfast review. We take a break here. When we come back, there's more for you here on GHOne TV. Ellen Amadeko is a member of the NPP communications team. Earlier, we engaged Joan Selasie Esq. She's a member of the NDC communications team and also the acting deputy CEO for the NEIP. My name is Mohammed, journalist. I'm back shortly.